All right, example 1. Guys, we're just going to use some general application of sine, cosine, tangent. So last class, we learned sine, cosine, tangent, what they were. We dove in a little bit deeper as far as filling out that table and finding the exact sine, cosine value, tangent values of 30, 60, and 45 degrees, okay? Today we're going to kind of maybe go in a different direction. Just use some general applications of when sine, cosine, and tangent can come into play. So this first example just says, hey, find the sine, cosine, and tangent ratios of each acute angle. So what we want to do is we want to find the sine of each acute angle. Well, in here I think we're going to have T, which is an acute angle, and G, which is an acute angle.
Less than 90. Yep.
So we're going to do sine of T, cosine T, and tangent T. We're going to do sine of G, cosine G, and tangent G. Okay, so sine again is which two sides, Logan?
T and G.
No, sine.
Oh.
Sine is which two sides?
Opposite over hypotenuse.
Opposite and hypotenuse. So if I look at T, I'm looking at the opposite side and the hypotenuse. So I'm going to do 8 over hypotenuse, which is 17. Okay? Now, I want to round that to, or find that out as a decimal. So 8 over 17 is what as a decimal, guys? 0.4705. Do you agree there?
Yeah.
Yes, no?
Maybe so.
Okay. So cosine of T. Cosine is going to be which two sides? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So I'm going to have 15 over 17. What is that as a decimal?
0.93.
882. Is there another decimal, or it rounds to 3? 4. Okay, and tangent of T is going to be the opposite over the adjacent, which is going to be 8 over 15. What's 8 over 15?
That is
0.976.
0.53 repeating. So I'll just call that 0.53. Is the 3 repeating or the 5 repeating? The 3. Okay, so now if I do sine G, well, sine of G is right here, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so that's going to be 15 over 17. And if you recognize, guys, we already did 15 over 17. That is 0.8824. In last class, we already talked about how the sine of an angle is going to equal the cosine of 90 minus that angle, which we essentially just showed you that there. So cosine of T equals sine of G. And cosine of G is going to equal sine of T. So 8 over 17. And then tangent of G, tangent is the opposite over the adjacent, which is going to be 15 over 8. 15 over 8, what do we get there? 1 something, 1 point. 1.875. Okay, so what is sine, cosine, and tangent? What is it?
Just ways to find like the third angle.
We can use it to find different things about a triangle, yes, but what is sine? If we just pick one of them, what in the world is sine?
Something to make horrible math lessons out of.
No, not at all. Okay, sine is the ratio of two sides of a triangle. It's the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Now, earlier today, we looked at a 30, 60, 90 triangle, right? And so in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, this is 30 degrees. And let's say this is 1. If it's 30, 60, 90 triangle and my short leg there is 1, what's my hypotenuse?
Double.
It's 2. Okay, so if I want to find the sine of 30 degrees, that is my opposite over my hypotenuse. 1 divided by 2, 1 over 2. So what's the sine of 30 degrees? 1/2 0.5. Do sine 30 in your calculators. Go.
0.5.
You get 0.5. Okay? Every angle has a particular sine, cosine, and tangent value. Do cosine of 30.
0.8660.
Okay, so that one's not as neat, is it? It still has that value. Cosine 30 is always going to be that value. Okay? You could do tangent of 57. Do tangent 57.
1.539.
Tangent 57 has that value. Okay? We get the idea. Those values are programmed into our calculator. No matter what, how big the triangle is, okay? If we have a 30-degree angle, the sine will always be 1/2. Okay, so type these in my calculator real quick. Sine 10, what is it? Sine of 10 degrees. First of all, we should always make sure we're in degree mode, guys. So at the top of your calculator, if you hit second, or excuse me, just hit mode. And we better be highlighted under the degree, okay? If we're in radians, radians are another way of measuring angles, we are in deep trouble. It'll just calculate all the wrong answers. Okay, so we just need to make sure we're in degree every time. So if I just type sine of 10 degrees, hit enter, 0.1736. 0.1736. Cosine 63. Cosine 63. 454. 454.454. And lastly, tangent 44. 9657. 9657. Questions there? Okay, so we can use sine, cosine, tangent to find different pieces of triangles. So if I look at this triangle, it says solve the triangle. Solving a triangle means to find all the missing sides and all of the missing angles.
That's no good.
Well, if I look at angle G, one thing we need to understand here is that angle G is going to be across from side G and vice versa. So side G is here, angle G is there, angle H is there, side H is there. Okay? This is side what?
J.
So that's side J, okay? So what's going to be angle G?
$65.
How'd you do that, Logan?
I took 90 plus 25 and got 115, and then I subtracted that from 180 to get 65.
There's 180 degrees in a triangle, right, guys? So this is going to be, angle G is going to be 65 degrees. Okay? So our ultimate goal is to find angle G, to find side G, and to find side H. Just a reminder, capital letters represent angles, lowercase letters represent sides. Okay? So if I look at G, and I want to solve for G, well, with respect to this angle, G is which side? The hypotenuse, opposite, or adjacent? That'd be the adjacent. So I've got the adjacent there, and this side is my hypotenuse. I don't want to do H, G and H, because I don't know either one of those. So if I have my adjacent and my hypotenuse, is that the sine, cosine, or tangent? Adjacent and hypotenuse?
Cosine.
Cosine. So I can say the cosine of 25 degrees equals the adjacent, which is G, over the hypotenuse, 13. Hold on here, Logan. Hold on here, Logan.
How
Questions about how I set that up? I picked G because I was going to find G. And then I found another side, 13, that I knew. And now I've set that up an equation. I know that cosine of 25 degrees equals the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And now I can solve for G. How do I solve for G?
Times by 13.
We multiply by 13 on both sides. Those cancel, and now I get 13 times cosine 25 degrees. That gets me G. What do we get there, guys?
325.
11.78. Questions on that? Did you get that, Olivia? Right answer?
Yeah, I see what I did.
Okay, you got to type things in correctly. Now, could I now do the Pythagorean theorem if I wanted to?
Yeah.
I could, but I think that's pretty darn easy, wasn't it, guys? So let's find h now. If I'm going to find h, well, relative to this angle, this is my which side?
Opposite.
Opposite over hypotenuse. So I can say sine, because sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so sine of 25 degrees, okay, equals the opposite h over 13. Okay, yes, this is 65 degrees, but we don't have to. We can do either way. Sine of 25 is opposite over hypotenuse. Follow me there? Now, if I would have used 65 degrees, this is which side? Adjacent, and this is my hypotenuse. So I could have done cosine 65 equals h over 13. Does that make sense? And now I'm going to multiply both sides by 13. And h, those cancel. And h equals 5.49. Now, one thing that you guys can always do is stop and check yourself and ask, hey, I know in a triangle, the largest side is going to be across from the largest angle. And the smallest side is going to be across from the smallest angle. So if I look here, well, 25 degrees is my smallest angle. Well, 8 should be my smallest side. G is my second largest angle because that's 90. So side G should be my second largest side, which it is at 11.78. Way that we can check ourselves. Questions there? Okay, now, if I look over here, I have two sides, and only one angle. Okay, so we should find an angle first. So let's just pick angle B. So with respect to this angle, don't I know this side and that side? Isn't this opposite over adjacent? Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So the tangent of angle B is going to equal the opposite, which is 2, over the adjacent, which is 3. So if you guys notice, I don't know the angle. Okay? I don't know the angle. So if we get our calculators, and if I'm trying to find the angle, we're going to use second and then whatever function we're using. In this case, it's tangent. So if you go second tangent and then type in 2 divided by 3, that is our angle. So when you're trying to find the angle, second tangent. So B equals, what was that, 33 point? 30.69. So B is 33.69. Well, then we can find angle A, can't we, guys?
Yeah.
56.31.
53.
56, thanks. $56.31. And then, how are we going to find side C?
You either do Pythagorean theorem or what we were doing with the other one.
Sure, we could do Pythagorean theorem, or we could do whatever we're doing on the other side. So again, I'm going to pick this angle. So with respect to this angle, this is what side? That's hypotenuse, isn't it? It's hypotenuse because it's across from our 90-degree angle. So if I pick, you could do either side, but if I pick that side and C is my hypotenuse, this is my adjacent, right? So I could do opposite and adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So I'm going to do cosine of 33.69 equals my adjacent, which is 3, over my hypotenuse, which is C.
Multiply by 3.
So guys, over here we multiplied by the number that was in our denominator, right? Same thing. We're going to multiply by whatever's in our denominator. This is it's a problem, it's a situation where it's going to take one extra step, but we're going to do that. We're going to multiply by our denominator. So I get C times cosine of 33.69 equals 3. Now, I'm trying to solve for C, aren't I, guys?
Or divide by cosine 33.
Yep, we're going to divide by cosine 33.69 on both sides. So now those go away, and C equals 3, in our calculator, 3 divided by cosine 33.69. So 3 divided by cosine 33.69. 3.61. Now, does that make sense? 3.61?
Yes, because it's bigger than either of the other side.
Good. It's bigger than both sides, and it's our hypotenuse, and our hypotenuse is always our largest side. I think that makes sense. Questions there? Okay, now, some application, some story problems. Big idea, angle of elevation and depression. If you were going to look up, okay, that is an angle of elevation. We're looking up. If we're going to look down, that is an angle of depression. So if you look up, you're measuring an angle of elevation. If you're looking down, that's an angle of depression. Now, down here at the bottom, both of these are made between the line of sight and the horizontal. The line of sight and the horizontal. Here's what that means, guys. If I'm right here and I'm looking up at something in the air, okay, to make a right triangle, I have to make my triangle this way. Well, here would be my angle, because that angle is made between the line of sight where I'm looking and the horizontal line. if I am right here and I'm looking down, okay, here's a common problem. People want to make their right triangle this way and say, oh, there's my angle. Well, if you take a look at this, this angle was made between the line of sight and the vertical. So we can't make it that direction, but rather, if it's an angle of depression, we should make it that way. So here's where I'm looking down, here's where I am, I'm looking down, the angle would be that way. Okay, I think I got 3 or 4 examples. Then we'll get you working here. It says the angle of elevation from a sailboat to the top of a 121-foot lighthouse on the shore measures 16 degrees. So a sailboat, here's a sailboat.
Dang.
It's a good boat. To the top of a 121-foot lighthouse. So I'm looking up the top of a lighthouse. How tall is the lighthouse?
121 feet.
121 feet. Okay. Our angle of elevation is 16 degrees. Our angle of elevation is going to be right here, 16 degrees. And it says, how far is the sailboat from the lighthouse? Is that going to be the hypotenuse, guys? It'd be the adjacent, which is right there. So, with respect to 16 degrees, which 2 sides do I know? Or do we have?
120 opposite and adjacent.
Opposite and adjacent, which is sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent. So tangent of 16 degrees equals the opposite, which is 121, over the hypotenuse, which is x. What do I solve for x here? Multiply both sides by x. And those cancel. So then I'll get x times the tangent of 16 degrees equals 121. Now what? Yep, divide both sides by tangent 16. So then in our calculator, those go away. We're going to take 121 divided by tangent 16. 421.97 feet. Questions there? So nothing really changes. Okay, we're still doing sine, cosine, tangent. We're doing basic principles of trigonometry, but we're applying it to a real world problem. Next one says, you see a rock climber at a 32-degree angle of elevation. Guys, here's your hint. Anytime it tells you how high your eyes are above the ground, you need to take that into consideration. So here it says your eye level is 6 feet above the ground, because this person, actually anybody, you're looking from your eyes, aren't you?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, you're not looking from you don't have eyes on your shoes. Use some sweet shoes.
Googly eyes, you put those on.
Okay, so your eyes are 6 feet above the ground. We need to take that in consideration. So here we are. And you're seeing some rock climber up on a rock wall here. And the angle, there's your line of sight right here. And your eye level is 6 feet above the ground. So this is 6 feet. And you are 1,000 feet from the base of the cliff. So this is 1,000. Now, would you guys agree that when I make my triangle, I'm going to make my triangle from my eyes?
Yeah.
Okay, so this then is 1,000.
What if you lean forward a bit, huh? Just kidding. Not a big deal.
And so that's what we're finding. Now, we're finding the height. It says, what is the approximate height of the rock climber from the ground? But the way I've drawn this, what does X represent?
From your eyes.
From the eyes. X goes from the rock climber straight down to your eyes.
But then you add 6 to that once you figure it out.
Great. When we're all done, we're going to have to add 6 in. So when I say, hey, we're going to have to take into consideration the height that you're off the ground, well, that's what I'm talking about. So here's my angle of elevation, and that is 32 degrees. Okay, guys, if it helps you to draw a separate triangle, go ahead and do that. 32 degrees, 1,000, x, there we are. So again, we're going to be using tangent. So tangent of 32 degrees equals the opposite over the adjacent. Then we're going to multiply both sides by 1,000.
Six hundred and
624.86. 87. Is that our answer?
Plus 6.
That's X. But again, we need to add that in there. So if I add 6 to that, 630.87 feet should be our answer.
These aren't too bad. Pretty easy.
They're not bad.
Almost like we're good.
Not so fast, my friend. All right. We'll do one more here. It says an airplane pilot sights a life raft at 26 degrees angle of depression. So here'd be our angle of depression. Here's my plane. Guys, I kind of pride myself on drawing airplanes. I think I have a pretty darn good airplane.
Better than most, I'll give you that.
Whoa, 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 whoa. The tail of a plane never looks like that.
I didn't say I was drawing to scale. Okay? That's
You should really make the.
Okay? So,
Let's see your airplane is. We'll give it a shot.
this pilot looks down and sees a raft. It's a life raft. Now, it's an angle of elevation or depression? Depression. So am I going to draw my triangle this way? Because if I do that, guys, now I have created my angle with a vertical line, and that won't work. I need to make my triangle this direction. So it says the angle of depression is 26 degrees. The airplane's altitude is 3 kilometers. Where's that going to go?
Vertical line.
Vertical, altitude, straight up and down. What is the plane's horizontal distance from the raft? So are we going to find this? No, we're going to find this. Guys, I can't say most of the time, but a lot of the times we will not find the hypotenuse. It's hard to measure that stuff in real world situations. Okay? So most times we will not. We can, it's possible. Okay? So don't say I said never, but more times than not we won't. So with this respect to this angle, I have the opposite and adjacent. So again, that is tangent. So the tangent of 26 degrees equals the opposite, which is 3 over the hypotenuse, or excuse me, the adjacent, which is x. Need to multiply both sides by x. So x times the tangent of 26 equals 3. Divide both sides by tangent.
6.15. 6 point what?
6.15.
It's awfully low, isn't it? What is it?
It's 6.1509.
Also what I know.
Kilometers.
Oh, yeah, we're in kilometers, though, right?